Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode in the series Expert Talks. And thank you so much for joining us today. Today's conversation is called The Evolution of L&D in the Age of Workforce Transformation. And as you know, Expert Talks is an interactive podcast series where we invite experts from the world of digital HR and learning, both regionally and internationally. There are no sales pitches or death by PowerPoint or product demos, just some great conversations to inform our HR learning and EdTech community. For those of you who've joined us live today, please feel free to ask your questions during the session in the chat box. And stay around till the end where we can get your feedback from a quick survey. My name is Paul Michael Gledhill, and welcome to Expert Talks. So today we've got an incredible guest. I'm really excited to have in our conversation today, Feraz. Feraz, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Doing great, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. Maybe we could start just by introducing yourself, who you are, what you do, and who you do it for.
Perfect. So my name is Feraz Zaidan. I lead learning and development for both Emirates Leisure Retail and MMI. Emirates Leisure Retail owns franchises such as Costa, Premier Inn, and others, many others, global operations. MMI, I'm sure most of you are familiar with MMI and its business. So I've personally, I have more than 25 years of experience within people development, spanning the globe. So Middle East, Europe, US, and Africa. Worked with companies such as Nokia and Ericsson. And my experience ranges from retail to telecoms to hospitality, you name it.
Right across the board.
Right across the board.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we really appreciate your time here. And so my first kind of broad brush question is, what is workforce transformation? What does it mean to you? Where do we start with that kind of sentence?
So when it comes to workforce transformation, this is the buzzword these days, right? So it's all about transformation, and rightly so, because transforming from the way we used to do things to the way that we need to do things with everything that is changing today. So I think that with workforce transformation, we need to all go back to the strategy, right? Because we work for a bigger and a much larger goal, which is to achieve our company strategies and our business strategies. So when it comes to workforce transformation, is to actually transform our workforce, and as well transform our ways of working and how we upskill and reskill our workforce, so that we could reach the goals set by that strategy. And I believe that learning and development and people development specifically play a major role, because we are the custodians and the guardians of achieving that strategy through people, right? So we need to make sure that our people have the right knowledge, the right skills, and the right abilities to reach set goals and to achieve such strategies. So workforce transformation, is all about, I would say, upskilling our people, and as well reskilling them, because we might have people that are skilled to achieve certain tasks, to achieve certain goals, to do certain roles. It's all about as well transforming those people and those assets, because it's all about our people, in order to stay ahead of the curve and ahead of the changes, because today we see many challenges that actually affect the way that we do things. We see many challenges that face us when we're trying to upskill and reskill, and that is, some of it has to do with the advancement in technology, and I'm sure that the biggest buzzword today is AI. And the fear that everybody has that AI is going to replace replace us, replace everything that we do, which I don't believe will happen. But I think it's all about how do we make sure that we are well equipped to face these challenges, and our people are well equipped to face these challenges head on.
And do you think, obviously kind of pre and post pandemic, do you think it was driven, this kind of this reason, if you like, to change from the employees or the employer? Where do you feel that was that a gap, or is that a bit kind of political about who's driving the change essentially?
Actually, it's the first time that I see it that it's driven from both ends.
Okay.
Reason is that there is before, if I recall well, L&D needed to push a lot. Today, I see it's more of a pull. People actually want to learn more, want to upskill themselves, want to be ready, want to be ready for the future. And as well, from an L&D perspective, that makes our lives a lot easier because there's that pull. But as well, technology helped us out a lot, and that's something that I would say that has been enabled a lot by the likes of like at our company we use Percipio, where we're able to drive learning through learning on demand systems, learn at your own pace, and as well we're able to bridge a lot of gaps through properly identified solutions that could help us bridge these gaps. And as well, from an employee perspective, people see a lot of value when you're offering them with solutions that are actually credible. They can use on their CVs, they can use on LinkedIn, because if it doesn't happen on LinkedIn, it never happened. So so that's extremely important today, that there's this motivational aspect as well in providing people credentials, providing people learning that they can use, and as well bragging rights. Saying that I've completed this, I'm ready for this, I'm ready for my next challenge.
And you've mentioned, skills, reskill, upskill. I mean, I start to think, well, we don't even know what the skill that we're going to require down the line is. How do we manage that kind of skill set? And I see that there's been a lot of change in the way that, well, you already mentioned the kind of credentials. So I can get a digital skills certificate now by doing a 30-minute course. Where are we with the whole evolution of skills?
So in terms of, if I see in terms of skills, bridging the gap, yes, things are changing, but we're still following 70-20-10, right? Most companies in the world today follow 70-20-10, which is 70% of your learning happens on the job, 20% of the learning happens through others or through coaching and mentoring, and 10% of the learning happens through formal learning. Now, as learning and development, our role is to be custodians of that whole journey, not only the 10%. So that though the 10% might be where we have full control, I can say, but then we have 90% of that journey where our control is a little bit limited, and that's where we would need to actually upskill leaders within the organization to have the same vision and to take that learning further. Because if you look at the 70% or learning on the job, it's through interactions between colleagues, interactions with leaders, and as well interactions with other peers. So as learning and development, I think that we need to have, we need to provide the right environment. We need to provide the right tools. We need to provide as well the right frameworks where people feel comfortable to learn and to grow. Because yes, that credentialing is that 10%, and it's mostly achieved digitally and as well in classrooms and so on. But there's a bigger overlooked piece, which is the 90%, and that's where a lot of people tend to learn a lot of more valuable things than what they tend to learn only through that 10%, because that learning happens with practice as well. So you're not just learning, you're learning and you're doing and you're practicing. But again, as well, it all goes back to strategy, because strategy and where the business is going dictates what skills do we need to develop and where do these skills sit. So that's what informs us in terms of what skills do we need to develop, what capabilities do we need to develop, and what are the things that we need to have ready by the time we reach those goals. Because when we're talking strategy, we're talking 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. So it's a long-term game, and it takes a lot of planning, and as well making sure that all of our ducks are in a row.
Right. And do you find that there's been kind of a change of not just how people learn? You've talked about kind of different modalities, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's learning from a peer, whether it's coaching, whether it's kind of online, digital, live, virtual, all these kind of different modalities. Do you think we've changed on when and how we're learning then? And is that part of, I don't know, promoting a new learning culture?
So I would say that the acceptance of it has changed. We have a lot of we have a lot of more, let's say, people are more receptive to what we have to say, but it's always been about building a learning culture, right? So with learning and development, it's always been about building the right learning culture, marketing learning, so that people actually understand the value of learning, right? So that's first. We've always been trying to do that, but I see it. I see that today there's a pull for it. There's a need for it, and people are more hungry. And I'm saying that because I've experienced it within my past two organizations. Like I remember pre-COVID, we've always faced the challenge of trying to get people on board to learn, trying to get people to spare the time, trying to get people to know the value that we're offering them. Today, there is more of people are chasing us. That's the way I see it, that people will come into you and say, well, I need to go on that course. I need to learn that skill. How can I do it?
And perhaps they're learning skills that, I'm just thinking about the size of the libraries now and the depth and breadth of content. When you're selecting content, back in the day, it used to be, okay, this is a competency, this is the skill, this is the job role, this is what I need to learn. And you mentioned AI earlier on, but, if you look at, augmented reality and virtual reality, people now want that kind of content. So it's kind of getting back to what do I like to watch on Netflix? What kind of, do I like a Bollywood movie, a Hollywood blockbuster, a documentary? So what's changing there, do you think?
So what's changing there is that now technology offers a lot of that learning at your fingertips. And again, I would mention what I mentioned before is when we first adopted our digital library, we call it internally My Learning, which is powered by Percipio Skillsoft. The thing that helps us out the most is that most of our people, whenever they wanted to learn something about a simple thing, about a formula within Excel, used to spend a lot of their time in YouTube, right? So today we offered them an alternative, which is an on-demand system at your fingertips that you can go find credible information, not any information that you would find on YouTube done by a 15-year-old. It's done by industry experts that know what they're talking about, and that's something that you would learn, and as well you'll be able to explore a lot more than that. So it's actually that technology, and especially such technology as learning on demand, is helping us with delivering the right content that people want to learn about, and as well having a huge portfolio where people can be curious and go and learn about other stuff that they haven't thought about before. Because the beauty about AI and the beauty about suggested learning is that based on certain patterns that you show within the system, certain skills or certain content is being pushed to you, saying, you've been taking a lot of that. Have you thought about learning about that today? And I've seen that some people are actually being intrigued by that, and some people are going out of their way and learning about other stuff. And you have, and another thing that I'm seeing as well, a rise of, is people are trying to see where do they stand in terms of their skill levels. So they're doing benchmarking against against other, against the required skills. So they would go on, undertake a test, say, all right, in my presentation skills, I think that I'm 100%. So I would go on, benchmark myself, see, all right, I'm at 65 to 70%. So there's still this 30% that I would need to improve on. And then I would go on, find the right solution, and work on improving that. And I can say that these have been game changers for us as well.
Right. And I guess then, if you're talking about that, let's assume that, if somebody's assessed themselves against the skills benchmark and they know that they don't have as much to do, then obviously they're thinking, well, actually, the learning's not as long. Because back in the day, you do, a project management course, it'd be weeks and weeks and weeks. And if you're doing that online, it's a nightmare. Have you found that things are kind of squeezed in and the time frames have got lesser and lesser and we need to know things quicker and quicker?
So we have to thank TikTok and Instagram for that. That people have short attention spans today, and I'm guilty of that as well. So and that's why whenever we're choosing platforms, we're always making sure that the content on these platforms is bite-sized. So how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time, right? So. And that's the same thing with learning. It's one bite at a time. And I'm seeing that most learning companies today are gearing towards bite-sized learning, and as well with the platform that we use, which is Skillsoft. We see that one of the longest courses or videos or assets would be 10 to 15 minutes long, which is great.
Right.
You go in, you learn something, you go out, then you would move on to something else and you would learn something else. So a big course would be made out of modules that are 5 to 10 to 15 minutes long, that you'd be able to go in, learn, finish. You could do it between meetings. You could do it between between assignments. You could do it at home. I know someone that has done it when they were sick at home, nothing to do. They got tired. They said, all right, let me just work on something. And they managed to finish around 75 different modules while they're always sick.
They can't have been that sick.
Yeah, I got to commend that.
Yeah. So I guess then, you're really finding people that are learning in the pace of their own life. Have you had to change a lot then about how you offer it? Because when, our role in L&D has always been to build programs. So we say, well, this is here for you, this is here for you. How do you now talk to people about it? Because for me, a learning culture is when everybody knows where to go, what to learn, when to learn, how to learn. And then you almost are getting people to kind of feed themselves, give a guy a fish and he'll and all that kind of metaphor. What's changed for you there?
So we tackle it in two ways. One way, which is, as you said, talking about the merits, talking about the systems, talking about the different skills that you can build, talking about the libraries, talking about all of that, and making some sort of roadshows where we show people, what our system capabilities are, what do we offer as L&D, how can we help you out, what are our frameworks, what can you count on us to help you out with. But then the other end of it as well is more of a formal approach, which is part of people's personal development plans. because during performance management conversations, a lot of learning requirements pop up, a lot of development requirements pop up. And the beauty of it is whenever something pops up and you have the right solution to plug that or to bridge that gap. And that's what a huge library helps you out with. Because imagine if you don't have that library available, then you would have to go out, source the right learning solution, take people off the job. They, instead of finishing, for instance, a finance for non-finance manager course, do it at your own pace. Finish it the whole course might take you 8 hours. You could finish it throughout the year instead of going away for 3 days and spending those 3 days off work, trying to learn something, and it wouldn't be, I would say, it wouldn't be as efficient and as effective for you as a person because you're not doing it in your place of comfort. You might be doing it in a classroom with other people where you're one of 10, one of 15, one of 20. You're not getting the right attention that you need. While if you're doing it on demand, and that's what learning on that's where learning on demand helped us out a lot, is where you're doing your learning at your own pace, in the time of your choosing, and you're able to finish it whenever you want.
So you talked earlier on about sort of credibility, and if I'm looking for, I don't know, the latest information in AI, I'm looking for leadership programs, invariably I'm going to come across thousands and thousands of hits if I'm looking on a YouTube video. How do you know that it's credible, that the source is, it's from a reputable place? And have you spent a lot of time thinking about that credibility to the libraries as well?
So the credibility of the libraries is extremely important because there are a lot of fake gurus out there that would just talk about different, talk about AI, for instance, and they don't have the right understanding of AI. Talk about leadership and they haven't experienced it themselves. So what we do is that's been the driver why we went for a solution that has credibility behind it. Because part of the solution that we got something called SLDP, which is offered by MIT Sloan as well for our leaders. And there's no bigger name than MIT. There is actually Harvard, so the likes of Harvard and MIT. So that's important.
It's important then for you that there's some credibility. So if they're doing a short course on project management, then it's aligned to the PMI, and if they're doing certification. So that's part of, again, you go back to, that was a strategic decision to take, a huge library that had some credentials.
Yeah, because the thing is that as well, part of our strategy is to build the right skills and to build the right credentials. And we definitely want our project managers to be PMI certified. We want our HR people to be HRCI certified. So, it was a no-brainer to go with a solution that offers us that. Plus, and as well.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think as well, it drives them, doesn't it? I mean, you can push that down and you say, this is really great content. But if they feel, oh, well, this is MIT, or, I feel like I'm part of, something that I'm doing for myself. And you said it earlier on about, sharing this these results on social media. It actually, it drives self-engagement. And I think that we've always been, guys that are pushing snow up a hill, trying to get things moving, and it just comes back. But now I think you've got that, like you said earlier, the appetite's there more.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you always need, in learning and development, you need to motivate people. And what's a better motivator than actually ticking the box of what's in it for me, right?
Yes.
So that's basic in learning. And
Yes.
the biggest thing in what's in it for people first is to develop their skills. Second, to get something credentialed. Third is to get something that they can share on social media and celebrate with their friends and colleagues, which is great because it ticks all of these boxes. And that's something that we actually work hard on.
So I guess my kind of final question to try and kind of wrap this up is we talk about, well, how do we know when we've got there? How do we measure this? What kind of things are we measuring to measure whether we do have a learning culture? Are we measuring things like hours, courses completed? What kind of measures are you putting in place that kind of back up to the strategy that you've put in place and improve performance at the end of the day? Because that's what we're looking for.
So the measurements that I would always recommend is activation, right? You always need to look at how many people have you had looking at something, how many people do you have looking at it now, and what has been the change, right? What drove that? And the best thing to do actually, and to see is whenever you see people are starting to adopt and start spending more time within the system and start or within I'm not going to say only system, because that's not the only thing that we drive.
No.
Is to start to engage more with learning and start contacting you more. So for instance, if you have a ticketing system within for learning and development to be to actually respond to service requests, an uptick in that is a good indicator. The other thing as well is adoption within your LMS or adoption within your e-learning system. Whenever you see people are starting to spend more time within the system, starting to finish what they've started, not only start things and leave them halfway done, right? So I would say you could look at hours spent. Another thing as well is adoption rate. Because let's say you have an organization of 1,000, and starting up for the first couple of months, you had 10% adoption rate, which is 100 only. But then 3-4 months later, after you've done a couple of roadshows, after you've spoken to a couple of managers, you've seen that number jump to 500. That's great. That's still 50% adoption rate only, but it's 40% jump from your first month.
Right. So always constantly measuring, reevaluating, and kind of looking at it from that perspective. And I guess is there a lot of pressure on? I mean, it's a numbers game, and businesses want to make profitability. We talk about ROI. Is that still a tough thing to do, or is it easier to say, well, we've displaced this classroom time and cost, and we've got people engaged more? It's kind of easier, and people are performing better. Can you pull that together a lot easier now from an ROI perspective?
You definitely can, but still ROI in L&D is still one of the most debated subjects, right? Because it's so subjective, because there are a lot of different things that affect results and affect business results. So even if you're doing your utmost best as learning and development in delivering results and delivering the best programs you can, and you don't have the, marketing is not doing their part, sales are not doing their part, and so on, you're not going to be able to measure ROI. I think that the best measurement is change in behavior and as well change in performance. Because as learning and development, we have I'm not going to say we have complete control over it, but we have a big influence and a big part to play. We have a big part to play in upskilling managers and upskilling leaders to deliver the best results they can. We have a big part to play as well in upskilling people and reskilling people in order to do their jobs in a really good way. So we can play our part in driving towards achieving the strategy, but we can't take credit that because we taught people how to do their job well, sales figures have gone up. So that's why it's still a little bit of a heated debate, when it comes to ROI specifically. But I think that we have much better measurements than ROI, where we can show our value and we can show our impact.
Right, and I guess that for us is a real plus now. So we don't need to get into the financials if we know that we've got the engagement, we know that we're moving people forward. And look, there's a massive battle for talent and their skill set these days, and an ongoing appetite for learning. So if you can offer that as an employee, I believe you're in the right place, which is attracting the best people that want to learn and want to grow. So, well, I want to congratulate you for all of that work as we wind up.
Thank you so much.
I'm so pleased that we've had you here today, and you've been very open to sharing some ideas, and I think we've learned a lot from that today. So with that, for everybody that's joined us today, if you could just spend a couple of minutes, we're going to pop in a survey into the chat box. Just tell us how it's been. I hope that you've enjoyed it as well as we have. But obviously, then we want to know as well what topic areas you want to discuss, who you'd like us to speak to in the future. But for now, Faraz, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate your time.
You too. And thank you everyone for joining. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
So we'll just give everybody a couple of minutes to kind of register your feedback. I think it's been posted in the chat. You can just fill out this quick survey and let us know what you thought and what you think for the future. We'll just give you a quick on that one. And if you didn't get to see the whole of this XpertTalx episode, then we will post it on social media, so you can watch it at a later date that's convenient to yourselves. But we really appreciate your time if you've joined us here live. And of course, if you've enjoyed the conversation, please give us a like and do all the good things that social media asks us to do. And we will see you in the next episode of XpertTalx.